Now the position of Richard was completely cornered and he could not escape from this. Seo Joo-Heon also told Richard to apologize because everything he had enjoyed so far was not his, but someone else's property that he took from Ju-Heon. The reporters also saw this opportunity to cover the news, but the angry Richard attacked the cameraman. He still did not accept and he said that all this had been arranged in such a way by Seo Joo-Heon. Meanwhile, Seo Joo-Heon, who saw it, just smiled, because what was done by Richard would not work in court. Feeling that he was losing, Richard used his relic, which caused the release of a white light that was very dazzling to the eyes of everyone there. Seo Joo-Heon, who saw it, asked the rope relic to close the door so that Richard did not run away. After the light was successfully extinguished, Richard suddenly disappeared from there. But Seo Joo-Heon calmed them all and would check the people there one by one, because Seo Joo-Heon was sure if Richard had turned into someone in this room, Seo Joo-Heon would start investigating them all, because the door was locked, so Richard had no way to escape. Seo Joo-Heon also asked everyone to cooperate with him now and find Richard, and fortunately all the reporters and people there were willing to cooperate, and Seo Joo-Heon began to investigate them one by one. But strangely, there was nothing wrong with the people there after Seo Joo-Heon did his inspection. The reporters panicked and started asking about the whereabouts of Richard. Seo Joo-Heon also did not expect that she lost Richard when she was sure he was hiding somewhere and disguised as something. Seo Joo-Heon intended to investigate this room. But at the end of his sight, he saw a statue shaped similar to the head of Richard. Seo Joo-Heon also looked sharply at the statue of the head, seeing some water droplets falling from the statue. Seo Joo-Heon was even more convinced of what he saw, and finally Richard Jang was caught when he tried to disguise himself as a statue. Meanwhile, in a room scene, Joshua, who saw the news with a look of disbelief if Richard had been caught just like that. Joshua was upset and angry because whoever was involved with Seo Joo-Heon, then they would all experience bad luck. Joshua was getting dizzy when he found out that Seo Joo-Heon had gotten the relic of the third spear. Joshua walked away from his room and he would think of a way where he could defeat Seo Joo-Heon. And when Joshua opened the door to his room, it seemed that someone had accidentally hit the door. Joshua, who saw George standing there with a creepy look, scared him and apologized, but shortly after that, Joshua got angry at George for no reason. But it seems that George knows Joshua very well because he even knows his real name. George knows Joshua because he was the one who helped Boston to harm his parents. Meanwhile, Joshua's subordinate whispered that the man in front of him at this time was George Holton. Hearing that, Joshua was very surprised, and he whispered with his subordinate why George could be in Pandora's office. His subordinate explained that George was a new member, because now Pandora needs more power because some of the seats are empty. George was talking again and he didn't care how he got in. With this, George, with a scary expression, asked to be friends with Joshua, which of course, it succeeded in making Joshua scared. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Seo Joo-Heon was seen toasting with his friend. Ju-Heon was very grateful for Seo Joo-Heon's efforts that helped restore his good name. Irene, who was there, also asked if Ju-Heon would start making his artwork now. Seo Joo-Heon agreed with Irene, and their praise made Ju-Heon a little embarrassed and hesitant. Seo Joo-Heon, who saw that, became unhappy and confused why Ju-Heon was still pathetic like this. Seeing that, Seo Joo-Heon also asked Seo to get the frame. After taking it, Seo handed the item to Ju-Heon, and Seo Joo-Heon asked him to open the file. After Ju-Heon opened it, he was surprised to see his name on the brochure. Ju-Heon still did not expect that Seo Joo-Heon had made a personal exhibition for him. Seo Joo-Heon had paid all the fees, and she only asked Ju-Heon to do the rest, which was to make the art. But Seo Joo-Heon also reminded that Ju-Heon still had to repair the relic. Seo Joo-Heon was surprised to see Ju-Heon, who was crying because of her actions. After that, Ju-Heon expressed his great gratitude and he promised to remain loyal to Seo Joo-Heon and follow her everywhere. Seo Joo-Heon felt strange, but he saw a notification window in front of him. She saw some writings there that said if her strength increased and because of the leadership traits she had also increased, now Seo Joo-Heon could increase her relic army. Not only that, she also got a new title, the kindness felt from a bad guy, and that made the relic who hated her return to respect her. Seo Joo-Heon also got a new skill, that is, training. Seo Joo-Heon now felt awkward to say the next thing after he saw Ju-Heon very happy and moved, but Ju-Heon wanted to hear it. Seo Joo-Heon also said that the division of the proceeds from the exhibition was 9-1, where Seo Joo-Heon would get more shares than Ju-Heon. These words of Seo Joo-Heon made Seo and Irene laugh to hear it. Seo Joo-Heon also told Ju-Heon to look at what was written on the contract, and after Ju-Heon flipped a few sheets, he found the contract that Seo Joo-Heon was referring to. Immediately Ju-Heon became upset and he protested that he didn't want to do this. After that, Edward suddenly called himself and said if there was something very important, he wanted to talk to Seo Joo-Heon. Edward also asked Seo Joo-Heon to check the email he had just sent. Seo Joo-Heon was in front of his computer now and he opened Edward's email. Seo Joo-Heon also asked Edward about the email he sent, and when Seo Joo-Heon opened the Relic user rating email, he saw various levels of Relic users, ranging from king to apprentice with their respective conditions. Seo Joo-Heon also looked up what Pandora would give them about their rank as Relic users. After successfully finding out about the rank, Ju-Heon was surprised when he saw the name Seo Joo-Heon was in the king rank, and got the title King of Robbery. Ju-Heon, who saw the title obtained by Seo Joo-Heon, laughed. While Ju-Heon was still laughing out loud, Seo congratulated Seo Joo-Heon for getting the title of king. Seo also praised Seo Joo-Heon for getting the title, but Seo Joo-Heon felt strange seeing the title he got. Seo Joo-Heon told Ju-Heon to shut up. After giving Ju-Heon a slap on the cheek, Seo Joo-Heon felt strange because he had never even been involved in a theft or robbery, but before he could contact George, a notification window appeared and the crow also seemed to be mocking Seo Joo-Heon because of his title. It immediately made Seo Joo-Heon upset. Meanwhile, in the notification window, the crow could be seen, who continued to mock Seo Joo-Heon and laugh at the title he got. Seo Joo-Heon also contacted George to discuss this problem. George, who had expected that Seo Joo-Heon would call him, congratulated Seo Joo-Heon in a slightly mocked tone. After hearing protests from Seo Joo-Heon, George explained that the awarding of the title was done by the system and several votes approved it. But George mocked Seo Joo-Heon if he should be grateful for the title and not King of Thieves, because normally Seo Joo-Heon was a thief. Seo Joo-Heon persuaded George to change the title with a better one, but George said that he could not change the title and he hung up the phone. Seo Joo-Heon was upset because she felt that she had sent someone useless into Pandora. Ju-Heon asked Seo Joo-Heon to reveal her rank, and Seo Joo-Heon obeyed Ju-Heon's words. Seo got the rank of Scout Swindler and Ju-Heon as Pushover Swindler, and because they got the rank as Swindler, then they were just below the king's position. But Ju-Heon did not accept because the name he got was even stranger than Seo Joo-Heon's. Seo Joo-Heon, who heard Ju-Heon protesting for getting the rank, asked him to be quiet and accept the rank that had been given by giving a taunt at the end of his sentence. Seo Joo-Heon also asked Ju-Heon to work harder so that he could get the title of Pushover King, and it succeeded in making Ju-Heon upset and strange. And with that, Ju-Heon lost his interest in achieving the title of king. But Seo Joo-Heon said that being king would be very useful. The recipient of the title is crowned as the ruler of this relic era, and will get something that only a king can get from the king's special treasure. But since Seo Joo-Heon was a king for the first time, he didn't know what he would get later. Ju-Heon was unacceptable because they would give something that strong to a person who was crowned as a king who was already very strong. Seo Joo-Heon praised Ju-Heon's analysis because actually someone who got the title of king would be able to rule the world. Seo Joo-Heon also predicted that this was something that the relic wanted, to make humans suffer more when they give their orders. Even Seo Joo-Heon, if the Pandora system that some people believe is also a relic, and when they choose someone to be given the title of king, and if they choose an evil person, then their goal to make humans miserable is easier. And Seo Joo-Heon persuaded the two of them to become a king because by having some people on the side other than Pandora, then they would be able to utilize the relic they got as a king, because there were only 15 relics that would be given to a king. So there were still many spots left for the two of them to become a king. But as Seo Joo said, if they had to compete with other swindlers who numbered 180 people, then they would be able to become a king. But Seo Joo-Heon didn't want them to worry about that because he himself would help them even if it meant Seo Joo-Heon had to give up other people's spots, like CEO Kwon's spot. But after Seo Joo-Heon said that, his cell phone rang but there was no name on it. Seo Joo-Heon picked up the call and asked who the person was talking to now. The person explained himself as someone who had helped Seo Joo-Heon, while on the other side, the person who called Seo Joo-Heon was smiling because he felt he knew everything about Seo Joo-Heon. As soon as Seo Joo-Heon said the name of the person who called her as Wade Harmon, Wade immediately got scared and moved away from her phone. She didn't expect if Seo Joo-Heon knew something about her. Wade also asked for an explanation from Seo Joo-Heon, who knew about her name. But Seo Joo-Heon only answered him playfully and said he was going to hang up. Wade, who heard Seo Joo-Heon was going to hang up, stopped him, and he said that he wanted to form an alliance with Seo Joo-Heon. Seo Joo-Heon, who heard the offer, rejected it outright. Seo Joo-Heon's rejection made Wade upset and angry. He felt if he had helped Seo Joo-Heon in solving his problem with Richard before by making rumors about him. But Seo Joo-Heon said if he didn't even ask Wade to do it, and Wade did it on his own. Ju-Heon also asked Seo Joo-Heon about the person who spoke to him on the call. Seo Joo-Heon told Ju-Heon that it was the king of propaganda who called him, and Seo Joo-Heon also said that the man wanted to form an alliance with him. Seo Joo-Heon rejected the offer because he didn't like the relic that the man had from the start. King of Propaganda has a relic named Gobble. Gobble was once a politician from the Nazis who worked under Hitler's leadership. By using his clever propaganda, Gobble was able to increase the morale of his soldiers, and it resulted in the Second World War breaking out and massacres. After a while, Seo Joo-Heon again rejected the offer from Wade. But Wade did not want to give up and asked Seo Joo-Heon to listen to him. Wade made an offer to Seo Joo-Heon to jointly complete the 7 Great Tombs. Because Wade felt that Seo Joo-Heon's information and abilities were very good, and Wade proposed himself to participate in completing the tomb. Wade also promised that he would provide all the information he knew and had. Besides that, he would also provide information about King of Destiny and King's special treasure. Seo Joo-Heon was a little interested in the information about King's special treasure from Wade. And Wade, who heard that, became excited, and he said that he knew a lot about the treasure. Seo Joo-Heon became interested in the information given by Wade. But Wade wanted Seo Joo-Heon to help him in a problem he was facing with someone. Wade also said that if they didn't get rid of the problem, then they couldn't solve the next tomb. Hearing Wade, who expressed his true desire, Seo Joo-Heon asked seriously about that person. and Wade said that the person he had to get rid of was a person with troublesome lightning relic power, named Julian Miller. Seo Joo-Heon was very surprised to hear the name Julian Miller mentioned by Wade from his phone. It turns out that the king of propaganda who got Richard accused and caught didn't do it just for fun, but he did it because he had other intentions, and because of his very good information about King's special treasure, and Julian. Seo Joo-Heon became interested. Julian was previously caught, but it seems that now he is free. But Seo Joo-Heon still does not understand the meaning of the lightning that Wade talked about. Wade also confirmed the information and he promised to provide more information when Seo Joo-Heon agreed to his offer. Seo Joo-Heon finally agreed to Wade's offer, and it managed to make Wade happy from the other side of the phone. Seo Joo-Heon was also the one who would determine where to meet them, and Wade just followed her after turning off the phone. Seo asked because previously Seo Joo-Heon did not like Wade. Seo Joo-Heon also said that when she heard the information provided by Wade, she was interested because it would be very useful in the future. On the same night, a private jet, the voice of Wade was heard, who was surprised because their meeting place was on a private jet. Although Wade tried to cover himself, who was amazed at the plane, but he did not succeed in covering his behavior. Seo Joo-Heon explained that he did this so that Wade would not try to escape or even use something else. Seo Joo-Heon also told Wade to be quiet and started their conversation. There was a lightning bolt that struck from nothing. It turned out that the lightning bolt came from Julian. Meanwhile, Seo Joo-Heon saw the video footage of Julian. Ju-Heon was even amazed at Julian's abilities now. Wade waited for Seo Joo-Heon's decision after he showed the video. Wade also explained that he completed the tomb and destroyed the relic, and that's why Wade wanted to cooperate with Seo Joo-Heon to stop Julian before they could conquer the other tombs. Wade also gave another stipulation where he would share the proceeds from the tomb that they would complete together. Hearing that, Seo Joo-Heon agreed to the offer from Wade, and Seo Joo-Heon also asked Wade to take him to where Julian Miller was. Although Wade was surprised at how sudden Seo Joo-Heon's plan was to leave now with his jet, but Wade still took them there. After a while of traveling, they all arrived back in Syria, but this was very normal considering the power of the Chinese-Russian alliance that covered the area other than America and Europe, because that area had been controlled by Pandora. Seo was worried because this was the territory of the king of evangelism named Ali. But Seo Joo-Heon said that Ali could not become king because Seo Joo-Heon had a relic that Ali used for that. Seo was confused about when Seo Joo-Heon got Ali's relic, even though Ali didn't have the relic now, but still, Ali had some followers. The battle here involves three parties in it, namely Julian, Ali, and the Chinese-Russian alliance. Ju-Heon also guessed that they would only get difficulties when dealing with Julian. Seo Joo-Heon confirmed Ju-Heon's guess because Ali would be taken care of by Wade. After seeing the video provided by Wade, Seo Joo-Heon already knew what relic was used by Julian with his lightning. Julian uses Indra's relic, which is one of the strongest gods in Indian mythology. Because of his strength, Indra has many stories that say about his weakness, which even though Indra is the strongest god, he still asks for help from other gods when he loses a war. And Indra's nature is the opposite of the nature of Julian. Seo Joo-Heon intends to take advantage of this so that Julian can be defeated. Seo was happy that she would meet her former vice captain, but Seo Joo-Heon rejected the idea, and the rejection managed to make Seo ask. Seo Joo-Heon also recalled the past events where she kept fighting with Julian. And in the end, Seo Joo-Heon asked Seo to discard the thought of her former vice captain. Meanwhile, in a desert, some black smoke and fires appeared in several places there. There were also people there who asked for forgiveness from the angry Julian by using his lightning as a tool to threaten those who had caused damage in the tomb area with relics. After they all apologized, Julian continued to lecture them, and he also said that he would take all their relics, and after forcing them to hand over the relics, subordinates of Julian seemed to collect the relics while praising Julian, and the praise managed to make Julian happy. But Julian's face returned to gloom when his subordinates began discussing his previous case. Julian, who did not want the topic to go further, told them to be quiet. But one of the other subordinates suddenly approached him and brought a report on the Seo Joo-Heon team that came together with the excavation team from the Chinese-Russian alliance. After hearing the report, Julian became wary of the steps he took, and he did not like Seo Joo-Heon, who had made him involved in a case. Julian also asked how credible this information was to his subordinate, and the subordinate admitted that he heard from another excavation team that had a high rank. Hearing this information, Julian told his subordinates to move now. He wanted to loot as many tombs as possible while he avoided Seo Joo-Heon, and when his subordinates wanted to leave first, Julian stopped him, and he persuaded his subordinates to stay with him and catch the other bad teams available. After giving moral encouragement and giving praise, his subordinates agreed with what Julian said. What will Julian do?